Hey guys, this is your friendly neighborhood bleed coder. Today we are going to explore large language models. So basically, I wanted to actually create a lot of applications using the large language model, and I thought like before going into that, let's actually have a discussion about what a large language model is. Basically, how to create a prompts, how to get efficient results, get the response you want, what is a multimodal, how to design prompts for multimodal, what are the different strategies that you should implement in designing the prompts. If you're not getting the result, what are the things that you should do, what are the parameters that gives creativity to a model, and all sort of a thing. So we are going to talk about like all of these things, and I thought like this will set up a basic understanding so that when designing the application we could implement this. So let's say if you are a student, or if you are a working professional, or if you are a bidding entrepreneur who is just interested in understanding things in order to implement in their life or day to day use cases or in their own startup, you are at the right place. So, without wasting much time, let's go deep into understanding of large language models. So, here we will use the examples from both the ChatGPT and Gemini. We will perform the task on both of these places, and yeah, we will make sure we explain keeping both of these things in mind, because you might be using any one of them, your company might be using any one of them, so it's better that you have the understanding of the both. So yeah, let's get started. So what are LLMs are large language model. What is a large language model? A large language model is a model that is trained on a variety of data sets and large amount of data set. These data sets are taken from all over the internet, from the news article, from the books you read, and everything. And what this large language model is trying to do is it is trying to guess the next set of words based on your input. What do we mean by that? So, in your mobile phone, when you are sending a message to someone, you are typing on your keyboard, right? And your keyboard suggests you what is the word that you are trying to type, right? In the same way, when you provide an input to a large language model, based on that input, it is trying to guess what are the next set of words that will come after that. That next set of words could be a single word, could be a sentence, could be a paragraph, whatsoever. Okay, so I will demonstrate you an example. Let's say I am typing here a nursery poem. And let's see what the LLM will do here. So we have provided three sentences of the nursery poem, and as you can see, the LLM has correctly guessed the next set of words. Not only it guessed this next word, it also provided you a little bit of descriptions. Now we will talk a lot about like how we are going to make sure we only get this in response, or along with that we get this entire paragraph in response. We are going to explore all of that, but you can see what the LLM is trying to do is basically it is trying to guess what are the next set of words that will come after whatever input that you have provided. So input become very important in the case of a large language model. These input are called prompts. So prompt engineering is very important. Based on the your prompt, the next probable set of words will be decided. And you will get your response. So the quality of your response, the accuracy of your response is entirely dependent upon the prompt that you are providing. Okay, so yeah, what can LLMs do? LLMs can write poems, LLMs can write stories, LLMs can write video scripts, LLM can create short scripts as well. LLMs can create large amount of code they can create of any language, of any framework. You can ask them to create the code. So you might ask me a question like, if the LLMs are an advanced autocomplete application, how can an advanced autocomplete application write a poem? And the answer is very simple. When you are asking it, when you are providing it an input to write a poem on something, what are the next set of words or sentences or paragraph that is going to come after that? The next set of words or sentences after your question is obviously the answer, right? So that is the reason why you see the response, which is basically a poem itself. Okay. So an advanced autocomplete application can actually provide the answer to your question, uh, uh, and that answer, the quality of answer will totally dependent on the information in your question provided. So we are going to talk about all of these things, like how to improve quality, how to get how to adjust the length of the response, how to increase the quality of response, how to actually write the input and all of that things. Okay, so let's dive deep into it. So now let's talk about the input. So basically, these inputs are prompts. So there are different ways in which actually you can create a prompt. So basically, in some of the prompts, you can simply ask a question. So let's say I ask it, what is the capital of the India? And it will give me the answer to this particular question. So as you can see, it has provided the answer, capital of India is New Delhi. In some of the prompts, you can provide an example. Basically, let's just say I am providing an example like text, India, capital, Delhi, text, United States, capital, and here based on that it has also gives the capital of USA is a Washington DC. In some of the cases you can provide more examples like text, India, capital, Delhi, text, USA, capital, Washington, Washington DC, sorry, text, UK, capital, London should come. So the capital of the UK is London, it has provided. So yeah, there are different ways that you can write a prompt. This case where you do not provide any example, this is basically zero shot prompt. The case where you provide just one example and based on that you are trying to ask the question, this is called one shot prompt. And the text based on which you provide multiple examples, more than one examples, and then you are asking the question, that is called a few shot prompt. So as you can see, like still it is not able to answer just in one word, right? So I am providing instruction where I provide the text and I need just one single word. What is the capital, right? It is giving me the answer like the capital of the UK is London. So in that case, maybe you might need to provide it more examples in order for it to understand the pattern. So I will provide it more examples like London, text, let's say we ask France. Now let's see if it is trying to guess the capital correctly, and the capital of France is Paris. Still it is guessing in that way. So what we will do is we will basically what is happening, I think here is it has the context of the previous responses, because of which it is providing to me the answer in this way. So I will start a new window and now I will check what is the response. So as you can see, the response is a single word, which is the Paris itself. So in the previous case, the issue was that it had the context of the previous like input output, in that it can see like it is providing me the output in the way like the capital of the UK is London, the capital of USA is Washington DC. Because of that, it was providing me the capital of France is Paris. But the moment I started a new window and then asked this question based on the certain set of examples, it understood the pattern and it knows like, okay, the user wants results in just one single word. So this type of prompting is basically few shot prompting. If you have provided just one example and then asked it a question, then that is basically one shot prompt. So I will demonstrate you one shot prompt as well here. This is a one shot prompt because I have provided it one example and I am based on that I'm asking it a question. So as you can see, it can provide me response here. And zero shot prompt is basically the prompt in which you are providing no examples at all. So basically you're directly asking it text India capital and it will provide the capital of India is New Delhi. So it does not understand the pattern yet that I want it in one single word. I want answer in a single word, not like I want it in the form of a sentence. So sometimes it's important that if you want the model to give response in a particular format, then you basically provide it few examples, and based on that the model will actually try to predict the pattern and knows, okay, you just want the answer in one particular word. So yeah, this is what zero shot prompt, one shot prompt and few shot prompts are. So now let's discuss one very important thing. Are LLMs providing a result which is random in nature, or are for a given input are they always providing the same output? So I will answer this question in two parts. The first part, let's talk about that. So basically, when you are providing an input to an LLM, what the LLM is trying to do is it is trying to guess the next set of words or tokens. So, and when it guesses the next set of words, it also have a probability of those words there. So for example, for a given input A, it guesses B with a probability of, let's say, 60%, C with a probability of 70%, D with a probability of 80%, and so on. So it guesses it guesses thousands of search words along with their probability. And for a given input, this probability distribution will always remains the same. So what is probability distribution? Basically, probability distribution is basically these words along with their probability and nothing else. So when you provide an input or when you keep your input same, this probability distribution generated by the LLM will always remains the same until and unless you have changed the training data. The moment you change the training data, at that moment the probability distribution also changes. But if that is not the case, for a given input, that distribution will always be the same. So now a question can come to your mind that if this probability distribution is same, then how on earth like when clicking this regenerate button, the answer we are getting is different, right? So as you can see, the answer has changed. Previously the capital of India is New Delhi, now it is saying just New Delhi, right? So how is this phenomena happening? So let me just open this AI Studio provided by the Google in order to explain you this. So there are three very important variables. So basically, when you give an input, the probability distribution will be generated by LLM, and for a given input, that probability distribution will always remains the same. Now, of that probability distribution, which word to select will be decided by these variables. These variables are temperature, top K and top P. So let's talk about what are these variables. This temperature variable is nothing but it represents creativity or randomness in your response. So when you set the temperature variable to 0, you are telling the model that the probability distribution which you have generated in that probability distribution, pick the most probable result. That is, you have killed the creativity there. When you add a creativity, when you increase the temperature, you have added the creativity. So basically, you have given the model a space to pick the results. The model will now not pick only the most probable results, but we have given it a space to be creative in picking the results. Now, in order to understand this value of temperature of 0.65, you need to actually first understand what is top K and top P, and with the help of that, this temperature settings comes into the play. Okay. So so temperature of 0 will always give you a deterministic results, which is like a fixed result. Like when you set the temperature to 0 for the same input, the output that will come will be same. But if you have set it to some value, then in that case, the LLM start becoming creative. It starts adding randomness in its results. The more you increase the temperature, the more the randomness is added. Okay. So now let's talk about top K value. So when you have provided an input to an LLM, it has generated a probability distribution, right? That probability distribution have thousands of tokens or thousands of words. And of those thousands of words, this top K is signifying the select the top K most probable words. So K stands for the K most probable results. So when K value is 10, that means of those thousands of words in the probability distribution, select the top 10 most probable results. If you set it to 1, select the 1 most probable result. So that means again the most probable results will get selected. So this top K signifying the top K number of most probable result. Okay. Now what is top P? So let's say you have provided an input X, and from that input we have selected top 10 most probable result A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Okay. And now what this top P is signifying is that out of those 10 most probable results, the summation of sum the probability of those values and just pick a certain set of values. So for example, what I mean to say is, like, you have generated of that probability distribution, you have picked the 10 most probable results, and the probability of A plus probability of B plus probability of C, and then the probability of E is equal to, let's say, top P. Then in that case, this is again one filter. So of those 10 most probable results, filter out these values. That is what top P is saying. So of that 10 most probable results, select those words in such a way that the summation of their probability is always lesser than equal to the top P value. It should not exceed the top P value. So you have done the one filtration by selecting 10 number of 10 most probable results, and then you have added a second filtration by selecting those words whose summation of probability is lesser than equal to top P. Now you have, let's say, of those 10 values, you have selected like word A, word B, word E, word F, okay, and rest are filtered. So, and also please note, it's not necessary that the word A is selected. Top P is signifying that the summation of that top 10 results should be lesser than equal to P. So it might be possible that you have neglected the A, the most probable results, and go on with B, C, D, F, G, something like that. Now the temperature setting is saying that, okay, you have now 5 filtered word results of this. Be creative, be 0.6% creative, and just pick one at random. So you are giving it a space to be not definitive 40%. So to be definite 40%. So when you set the temperature to 0, you want it to be precise, like focus on the probability. But when you have set the temperature setting to 0.6, then you are saying that 40% only you need to be focused on probability. Rest of the 60% be a little bit random in guessing the results, in selecting the results. And this is the reason why on clicking this regenerate button, you get a different response. So the probability distribution for a given input remains the same, and based on the temperature, top K and top P value, your results keep changing based on this regenerate button, because that LLM has generated a large number of results, and that results is same, but which results to pick is decided by these variables, which are provided here. Okay, and that is the reason why the response you see after clicking the regenerate buttons, and or like whenever you provide the same input again and again, the response is different, is because of these variable settings. Okay, now let's continue our conversation about the prompts, because the prompts are the most important thing. In order to get a output from a large language model, providing a good prompt is important, right? So let me just open ChatGPT, and yeah, we will talk about the prompts here itself. Okay, so you can think of prompts having three crucial components. So the first component, very crucial component in a prompt, is the input, which is always required. So you might be asking a question from the model, large language model. You might be telling it to perform a particular task. You might be telling it to operate or classify something. So that input is always required. Then sometimes along with your input, you need to provide some context, some reference window, in order for this model to actually give you response based on input. So let's say you are asking, so in your input you are telling it to summarize a passage. Then in that case you need to provide it uh, the passage itself. So you need to provide the reference, you need to provide the context, which is the passage, right? Then in some cases also you need to provide examples, right? So like you want the model to give the response in a certain way. For example, in our in our all the examples we have, we always wanted the model to provide us the response like a single word, right? So for those kinds of a cases you need to provide an example. So yeah, so you can think of prompts having these three very important crucial component. So input is always required. In some of the cases you might not need any context or any examples, right? But you always need to provide an input, which is to ask a questions, to tell it to perform a task, to tell it to something to operate on, or something to classify, or to complete something which is incomplete right now. Okay, so we will go through the example one by one. Okay, so for example, we will start with a prompt which will just contain the input. So let me just ask it a question. So in which year world uh, war was fought? So this is a prompt which just have the input, and in the input we are basically asking a question and it is providing me an answer, right? Similarly, I have asked the question right now. So similarly, like let's say I have a birthday, I my birthday is coming. So prepare a shopping list. So this is a task I'm telling it to perform, right? So like here in the input we are telling it to perform a task. Previously as an input we have asked a question, right? So as you can see, when we tell it to perform a task, it is performing the task and it is providing us a cart in which what are the things that needs to be bought for birthday celebration. Similarly, you can ask like some questions like some other uh, problems, like classify into living and non-living, and then you give some entity to operate on. So like human table, plant and it is operating on that. So in all of these cases, in all of the three examples that we have considered here, we have just provided an input. No context was needed to be provided. Now let's say I am asking a question where some peoples are, let's say, entering into a gate and exiting it from a gate, and I need the information like how many number of peoples are present in the end, right? So in that case, I need to provide a context or reference to what is happening at each interval of time, right? And based on that only it can provide me a response. So for example, let's say I will do, okay, so I will start doing this. Okay, as you can see, my input is how many people are present, and I have to provide a reference of what is happening with time, and based on that only it can give me a response. If I would have asked simply like provide me how many people are present, then in that case it might not be capable to answer the question, because we have not provided a reference, right? So in that case it will either assume and hallucinate, or give us a wrong answer. So we need to provide context also. Now for the cases, let's say if we want like the response to be in a particular format, then in that case we also need to provide examples, right? So that it can actually understand from our pattern that okay, the user wants the results in only one word, like it is giving you a country and it just want the name of the capital, that's it. Okay, so yeah, that's it. That's about the prompt. So it has so to revise, like it has three most crucial components. One is the input, the second is the context, and the third is example. Input is all you always need to provide it an input. It can be a question, it can be a task, it can be a classification, it can be a completion of a text or anything. Context is needed where in order to solve a problem, you have to provide it some reference about what is happening. So in that case you need to provide a context, and examples are needed in those cases in which you want to model its response, like the response should come in this kind of a format or something. Okay, so till now we have learned a lot of things about the prompt. So we will now look into designing of the prompts, like how to write a effective prompt. So the first things that I want to show you is like you should, while writing a prompt, you should always be clear and concise in your instruction. So I will like say this with an example. So I have opened this blog, let's say, and what I will do is I will copy this blog and I want the summary of this blog, summarize the blog. Okay, so I have given it a blog and I want a summary out of it. Okay, so it has provided me summary. Now remember, I have just asked it to summarize the blog. Maybe I want it in the form of a bullet points, maybe I want it in not more than 100 words, or maybe I want it in 2 sentences, but I am being very vague here. I have not provided it any information. Like I have just told the LLM that just take this blog and summarize it, and the answer it will provide me is just a summary, and that summary is very long, as you can see. So it's always very important to be very clear and concise in your instruction. So what I will do now is I will take this same blog. What I will do, I will start a new window, and I will say summarize the blog in 2 sentences. Now let's see what the response the model provides. So in this case, the length of the blog will be very less. So as you can see, the length of the blog just stops here. So yeah, that is the case. Now what I will do is I will do one more thing. I will take this blog and now I will tell it to summarize this blog in the form of bullet points. So now it will provide me summary in the form of the bullet point. So it's always so note it down. It's very important to be very clear and concise in your instructions so that LLMs can do what you actually want them to do. Okay. So yeah, this is the first thing. The second thing, it is sometimes good to include examples so that the LLM can do what you want them to do. So basically, providing examples actually regulate your model. So what do we mean by that? What is the meaning of regulating a model? So when we provide an example to a model, let's say question is this, answer is this. So in that case, we have given model a way to provide a response, right? So basically model is regulated in terms of the way it provides the response, the sometimes even the choice of the words itself, and a lot of other things. So by providing just an example, you have actually regulated the formatting, the scope, the phrasing, and the general pattern of the model response itself. So I will show you this also with an example. So let's say we ask it a question, and the question is, what is the capital of India? And the answer is New Delhi, which is very hot in summers. Okay, now I will ask the question, what is the capital of US? And I will ask the answer. Okay, so let's see what the answer this model is going to provide. The capital of United States is Washington DC. It is known for its significant historical landmark as the center of the federal government. So just by providing in my example, just by adding which is very hot in summers, you get to see like, okay, this model is also adding something in its response. So if we are not using this, then you can see that the model will also not provide this response. So let's say we are using just this only. Okay, now let's see what the model provides you in the response. Washington DC. So as you can see, by providing the examples, you can always regulate the model so that the model will provide the response in the form you want, the choice of the words and all the other things. Okay, so it's often good idea that if you want it to be regulated, that is, if you want it to provide response in a certain way, you should always provide an example. Now the third thing that you should take care of while designing a prompt is maybe providing a context. So for some of the questions, let's say I will do one thing. I'm in a restaurant, okay, and the restaurant has certain products. Okay, the products are, let's say, the burger, the Coca-Cola, and ice cream. Okay, now what I will do is, there is a customer, okay, and that customer wants, let's say, burger. So the order that is provided is burger 1. Okay, now the customer wants Coca-Cola and ice cream. So the order is So as you can see, the model is deviating a lot. So this is not how we wanted the result. We wanted the result in just this JSON format, right? And the model is not able to understand that with this much information. So basically you can add multiple examples here in order to make sure that the model understand the response should be provided in this particular way. Okay, what I'm trying to imply here is that just by asking this question, it makes no sense, right? If you, let's say, provide input customer Coca-Cola and ice cream and order is what, so the model will not understand, right? You need to provide this particular context in order for the model to understand what is the current scenario, what are we talking about, and how do you want the response to be provided, right? So providing that context is very important. sometimes when you are asking some informative kind of a problem, like you are asking it to calculate something, to do something or something like that. So in that case, it's always good idea to provide the context. When you are asking something like write a poem for me or write a poem for JavaScript or let's say something like that, in that cases it's okay if you do not provide any context, right? But in these kinds of a problem, especially in the quantitative problems, it's always good idea, it you should always actually provide basically the context in which you are actually asking that problem statement. Okay, so yeah, we talked about three things. We talked about basically being very clear and concise in your instruction, sometimes include examples to regulate the model, and add context also. Okay, also, like, there is something called as prefixes. So you have to understand that there is something called as an input prefix and there is something called as output prefix. So by providing multiple examples like this, the model can understand this is input prefix, this is output prefix. So sometimes also, if you want us like your model response in a certain way, you can provide multiple number of these prefixes, and the model will learn that okay, this is the pattern in which the result should be provided, and what it will do is it will basically provide you result like that. So model will understand this is the input prefix, this is the output prefix, so you are basically asking the output here and the output should be in this format, so it will provide in that format only. Okay, so sometimes it's also good to include these kinds of prefixes in order to get the response from the model. Okay, so these are the 4 points that you need to take care of. So guys, let's talk about now fallback responses. So sometimes when you provide a prompt to an LLM, based on that prompt, basically the LLM provides you a response, right? So what happens in some of those cases is that that either your input contains some words or something due to which there is a restriction that the output should not be provided. So basically you get the response that sorry, I cannot tell you this. Or sometimes what also happens is your input is correct, like you're exactly asking the right information, there is nothing offensive in it or nothing other type of harmful stuff in it, and basically the model is trying to provide a response and that response is harmful. So in those kinds of cases, what happens is basically also you get a fallback response. A fallback response is nothing but saying, okay, I cannot tell you this or something of that sort, blah, 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 blah. So something like that basically is what a fallback response is. So basically, if your input is correct, if your input doesn't contain any such kind of things, then in those cases, maybe it is because of the response that you are getting it. And in those cases, it's often recommended that you increase the temperature variable. So let's say you have set the temperature variable to 0.6, because of which you are getting a fallback response, then you should increase it to 8 or maybe to 1 in order to get the response in those kinds of cases. Okay, so this is how you deal with a fallback response. Now we are going to talk about an interesting topic, and that is multimodal. So how to design prompts for multimodal. So first of all, let's discuss what a multimodal is. Okay, so let me do one thing. I will show you something such as free from prompt. Okay, so basically a multimodal is a model in which basically you in the prompt you can provide both the images and the text. So basically here we can add an image, let's like this. Yeah, so as you can see, we can add an image like this here, and along with that we can actually add some text also. So so we have added the image and we are doing it, please let me know the following. Okay, and then what we are doing is we are providing some input. So what we will do now is who is in the image, and we will run it. Okay, so these kinds of prompts is basically called as multimodal prompt, in which your prompt not only contains the text, but it also contains images, audio, and different maybe files also, so different format of documents and those kinds of things. So when so basically when your prompt has something which is just more than a text, then those kinds of prompts are basically multimodal prompts. So I think the processing is not happening here because of the internet issue. So just let me do one thing, let me change my Wi-Fi network, and then we will check it. So as you can see, the response has arrived. This is the image of a panda. So we can ask something like, what is the panda doing? Okay, so these kinds of prompts are multimodal. So you can see I have added image, I have added text, and based on it I am getting the response. So those kinds of prompts are basically the multimodal prompts. So now we will talk about like what are the best way of actually designing a multimodal prompt. Okay, so multimodal prompt is almost similar to like your normal prompts, the text-based prompts. So just like in the text-based prompts, it is very important to be very clear and specific in your instruction when needed. Add certain types of example. Sometimes provide more examples in the form of a step-by-step way, so as model can understand the patterns. Like sometimes use prefixes like input and output prefixes and things like that. So in the same way, all these like you can say all these points are valid here as well. Okay, just one thing that I would like to emphasize here, that if you are operating only on a single image, okay, so if let's say your prompt contains only one single image, then always add image first and after then add the text. Okay, so for example, here we have first provided the image and then we have provided the text. And then this is especially very important for your prompt which contains only one single images. So in this way, like the prompt first processes the images and then look after the text. And that's why if you're dealing with just one image, always provide image before the before your text prompts. In case of multiple images, the processing is not done like that. So it's very important that in case of a single image, you always provide the image first and after that the text prompt. Okay, so yeah, this was all about uh, LLMs and a basic instruction. So as when we proceed to the next few videos, while creating applications and designing applications, we will make sure when writing the prompts or using the prompts, we take care of these aspects. Okay, sometimes look, I would always recommend you guys that you have to perform a lot of iteration. There is no single rule like you write a prompt like this. You always have to perform multiple number of iterations in order to reach a desired result. Okay, so in case of the prompting, you have to try various techniques, you have to try various things, and after that you reach a particular prompt which is useful for your use case. Maybe for other use case that might not be valid. Okay, so it's always very important that you reiterate, you follow these principles, you add examples, you be clear and concise in your instructions, you provide step by step of processing something, right, and like you provide prefixes and all that kind of a stuff. You actually do a permutation and combination of a lot of things, and based on those kinds of iterations, you finally reach a particular prompt which is very useful for your use case, and then you can keep using it in order to get the results for your particular use case. So yeah, we will actually like in the upcoming videos, when we will be writing applications, the backend and the front end applications, we will be using all these things that we have learned today. Okay, so yeah, if you are a, let's say, a bidding entrepreneur or a student who basically wants to create an applications using LLMs, or who wants to make their application strong, then you are in the right place, and in the upcoming videos you will get to know a lot of things as well, like how to write an application using all these LLMs. Okay, so yeah, see you next time.